How are y'all doing? Appreciate y'all having me here and be a part of this special occasion. I was kind of getting word, and just having the chapters together like this is awesome. I'm glad I can be a part of it. It's not?
Yeah.
Is this a little better? Yeah. All right. I'll stay close.
Danger close.
No, but thank you all so much for having me here. Just to be a part of this community here in the Clemson area and be able to share this with you guys it means a lot. And we've been looking forward to doing this. I've been in touch with Howard and stuff like that, so this is really cool to do, and thank you guys for taking the time to hear me speak. So a little bit about myself, just to get into it. I'm born and raised in Virginia. I don't know if any of y'all are familiar with the area. Some of you guys, I heard, are Navy boys from the Norfolk area and the beach, but I grew up in a town called Stafford, Virginia, which is about 45 minutes south of Washington, D.C. and about an hour north of Richmond. So right in the middle on 95, about a 7-hour drive from here. So my family makes the commute for every home game, so got a good support there. But I grew up there. That's where I'm from. So born and raised Virginia Tech fan. I saw some T-shirts over there. So yeah, I think I made a smart decision coming to South Carolina. No offense, but so a little bit about me. I just grew up nothing too special, working in a household. Father was a hard worker. Mother was the same, 2-income family, just trying to survive, put a roof over me and my sister's head, kind of just instilled the precedence of hard work and what it means to sacrifice and give your kids a better life than what you had. And that's kind of what my father did day in and day out, was just try to provide a better life for me than what I had. And that kind of really instilled what made me who I am today, I believe. Because there's a lot of things that go on in our life. There's a lot of adversity and situations that we can't control. We can't control how we're born, the color of our skin, or any kind of factor coming into this world, but you can ultimately determine what you want to become. And I think for me, that was the biggest thing, is when you hit a point in your life, realizing what you want to become and achieving that, the process to get there just takes so much hard work. And a lot of people don't take advantage of that or realize the work that you have to put in to become what you want to be. And so the big picture is, for me, I have the accolades of war, I have, a lot of friends and this and that, and the support system's that great, but none of that means anything unless I put a first step forward and become who I want to become on my own terms. So, kind of fast forwarding through what happened with me, and the story that goes with my name is, when I graduated from high school, 4 days after graduation, tragically my father passed away of a massive heart attack. So that really hit me. There was no sign, there was nothing leading towards it, there's no entry into becoming a man of your household overnight, essentially. So I was actually in South Carolina, in Myrtle Beach. After you graduate, we take a trip as a beach week is what we call it. So I was down here, partying a little bit with my friends, and I get a call from my mother, and she's like, "You need to come home. There's been an emergency, this and that." So I have no idea what's going on, and I get on this little single plane out of Myrtle Beach, flying to Richmond, and my mom picks me up with my sister. And I kind of feel the mood, and I realize something's going on. I'm like, what's up? And she tells me, she's like, we need you to be here. Your father's passed away. And it's like, in the car ride home from Richmond back to my hometown, it's just this moment of my life I'll never forget, just staring out a window for almost the longest hour car ride I've ever had. And you just got to realize what you're going to do. What was I going to become? Am I going to make excuses with my life of why I didn't become something because my father's not there to nurture me anymore? Am I going to work a dead-end job in my hometown and become nothing of myself because I have an excuse? Oh, I could have done this, I could have done that, but with my father passing, I didn't do it. And for the most part, I wasn't ready to go off to school. I had no offers for football, but from some small colleges. My grades weren't the best, so my plan automatically out the gate was I was going to do kind of the bridge program. I was going to do a 2-year school and then try to get into Virginia Tech is where I wanted to go and try to walk on and play football. It was ultimately the goal from day one. But when it hit me with the reality that I had to kind of grow up overnight, I didn't know that school was the best option for me. So all I did was kind of just told my mom and sister, I was like, we're going to be okay, I'll make sure we can provide and this and that. And I went to a recruiter station, and so I guess that's what we have in common together in this room, We all at one point probably walked into a recruiting station somewhere along the way. Maybe some of y'all might have been drafted. I don't know. I wasn't. I said, excuse me, sir, I want to jump out of airplanes and see Europe. He said, well, sign right here. We can take care of that for you. And I never jumped out of a plane and I never saw Europe. But that's how it was. I had to make that decision, and I realized that my father was also a veteran, a Vietnam veteran. He served in Vietnam. And he was stationed in Bamberg, Germany, and Berlin in the Army back in the old days. And so I grew up with the Army stories. He used the military to provide a better life for him. He came from nothing. Both my parents are from a small town in Lordsburg, New Mexico on Interstate 10 right outside of El Paso, Texas. Population 700, one stoplight, one high school, literally nothing. And my father joined the military, got stationed in Berlin, saw Vietnam, got out, and was actually the athletic director at the Marine Corps base in Quantico. He got offered the job. He did all the DYOA in Bamberg and Berlin, met a guy, and he got offered the position in Quantico. So that's how I ended up in Virginia. And I realized that my father used the military to provide a better life for himself and kind of get out of his situation from where he was from. And I felt that burden that I needed to do the same, that I needed some guidance, I needed myself to just provide a better life for myself and structure, and really get out of this nest that I've been in, and now I'm in this world of turmoil and uncertainty of where I'm going to become with my life just because of his passing. And I up and joined, and I didn't tell anybody. I came home, said, Mom, I'm going to take you out to lunch with my sister, and broke the news, and she said, are you sure? And I said, well, actually, I've already signed. So yeah, I think I'm sure, and it was kind of funny how the story goes, is because I told him I wanted to jump out of planes and see Europe, and I had to go to MEPS and fill out my job, and I scored really high on the ASVAB, so I actually qualified for every test or every job position in the military. And my father used to preach to me. My dad was infantry. He's like, if you ever go in the military, you get a trade. He's like, don't be hard-headed like me. He's like, nobody gave me guidance. I went infantry. And so I'm sitting at the recruiter desk, and she's like, you can do satellite communications, this and that. And I was like, I think I want to go infantry. And she goes, are you sure? First she looked up and she goes, you realize we're in a time of war? And I go, and I really didn't, as a young adult, I was 16, 17 when the conflict started. I was in 8th grade when 9/11 happened. And you don't realize what's going on over there at that young of age unless you're really inclined to it. And growing up as a young kid surrounded by athletics, I had no clue. I knew there was a conflict, but it really doesn't harp on you the horrors of war. I didn't know what that was. I hadn't seen combat, Besides a few movies, I didn't know what combat was. And I said, yes, ma'am, I'm sure. My dad was infantry. I want to be infantry. And she goes, are you sure? And the light should have clicked there, but, I went ahead with it, and she had to make some phone calls because, there wasn't a lot of slots available. And she goes, well, how soon availability would you like to leave? And I said, well, I want to join. So she's like, well, can you get on a bus in the next 48 hours? And I said, well, this is a little faster than I thought. So, I joined infantry, and I was on a bus down to Fort Benning, Georgia, before I knew anything. Talk about hell on earth, they say. Fort Benning, Georgia may have been one of the worst, besides Fort Polk, Louisiana. That was some torture down there, too. But yeah, so I was on it, and I didn't know what I was getting myself into. I was infantry soldier, private. I got promoted to private first class due to my PT score. I was a really good athlete out of high school, so I went in the Army as a private first class down to Fort Benning, Georgia. Graduated basic training, thought it was the most difficult thing I'd ever done in my life. Got out of there, and I got my orders, and I'm looking at them, and they're, Rodriquez, you're going to Hawaii. And I said, well, it's not Europe, but it's pretty good pitch for me, I'll take it. And what I didn't know was happening at the same time, the day I got my orders, 2 days later, there was the unit that I ended up going with was struck, and they were already in Iraq. They had been in Iraq for a month. And I got orders to go to Hawaii, and at that same time, their infantry mortar platoon took 2 casualties in Iraq. And I never met the guy, but Alan B. James was his name. He was killed in action. And so they needed a replacement soldier. And luck of the draw, I got called, and my orders changed from Hawaii to Colorado, and I had no idea where Colorado was. I was like, I'm thinking sandy beaches in Hawaii, and next thing I know, I'm flying into a blizzard in Colorado in January. And I spent about 2 weeks in Colorado training up and getting everything ready, and they said, son, you're going to Iraq. And I said, well, I guess this is it. So I was in Iraq, boots in country, 3 weeks out of graduating basic training. So my career was really fast, and people always ask me, how'd you gain rank so fast? I made sergeant in less than 3 years, and I was almost promotable for staff sergeant when I got out at 4. And I said, well, Uncle Sam shipped me off real quick, and you get shot a couple times, you earn a lot of awards. So I move up the ranks. So I was in Iraq by the age of 18, just turned 19, boots in country, right out of high school. I did a 15-month tour. I was only supposed to do 10 since I got there a month late with the unit. And the 2006 administration was during the Bush campaign, and we did the surge, which a lot of people may be familiar with, where we just pushed through Baghdad, through Sadr City, you know, through all the grunge and leftover that was really giving us a problem. I was a part of it. One of the most casualty times that we took in Iraq was during the surge, and we actually extended our orders to 15 months. And the thing that really was sorry about it is when I went there thinking I was only going to do 10-month tour, I told my sergeant, I was like, well, I'm going to decline my leave. I was like, I'm only going to be here for 10 months, so I'm going to decline my leave, and I'll go home and be able to go on my nice 30-day leave once I get back. And then the orders came, and I ended up doing 14 months and not being able to go home. So that was kind of a tough draw, but it was all worth it in the end. I ended up getting a lot of leave out of it at the end of the day. So I came home from that, and I trained up in Fort Carson, Colorado. Is where I was stationed at. I went through sniper school down back at Fort Benning. I went through infantry mortar leader course, Fort Benning, air assault, Fort Benning. So I pretty much considered Fort Benning my second home, and I didn't like it too much. It was too hot for me. I didn't know. Columbus wasn't too much a friendly place for me. I didn't like it too much. But then now I'm back here in Clemson, so it's not too far down the road, and I got buddies on the team from Columbus that love it. And I said, I don't know how in the world y'all grew up there. That place is somewhere else. So I give them crap all the time. But you know, I got back from Iraq, and we had already had orders to go to Afghanistan, and you know, my military career was fun. I enjoyed it. And the camaraderie and brotherhood that you have with guys and that you grow on every day, it was awesome for me. And it was really cool to be a part of it, and it really sheltered me from what I had gone through when I got into the military. Because the ball had rolled so fast, I really had no time to vent or even reflect on my father's passing. And it was tough. In Iraq, unfortunately, I lost 12 friends there in the conflict, and it was hard to deal with. I had a lot of good friends that I was close to, but really not very close to, just because I had been entered into the platoon late. And as you guys know, the relationships are really built in garrison before you go to theater. And then in theater, you really just get that camaraderie because, you know, you're in a foxhole together. And for me, I was kind of the new guy thrown in the platoon, so I had no history with the boys that I was with. And when we would take a casualty, I would know them, but I only knew them for a few months. And it hurt, but I could see the hurt on the other guys of what it was like to lose somebody that they were so close to. And for me, it hurt me, but I didn't have a relationship or bond. And that's what the difference between Iraq and Afghanistan was for me, because when we got orders to go to Afghanistan, I had a relationship. I deployed with these boys to Iraq, spent a year training up stateside and really getting to know their families, really getting to know their children, really getting to know who they were. And then you go overseas for a year to deploy, and you're in that foxhole together, and you realize the guy next to you is a brother. And I think that's what we all have in common in here, is one way or another, we understand each other because of the brotherhood that we were a part of. And that's why I feel so privileged to be here with you guys today, because it's not about, you know, who I am, who you all are. It's what we have in common, and that's the less than 1% of us that are soldiers one way or another. And it's honored for me to be here. And I deployed to Afghanistan with 361 Bravo Troop with 4th ID, which was 2nd ID, but I reclassed over. And we all came into Afghanistan together, and we knew we were going to be in a rough spot. We knew that we were going to be far up. And to put it in perspective, I was the furthest north unit in Afghanistan. For those of you pilots in here, it took about a 45 to an hour Chinook ride from one base to another. And fixed wing, it took us about 30 minutes from Bagram. So anytime we got into contact, it was about 30 minutes till we got any support for bombs or anything like that. So we were on our own. We got one meal a day. We had a chef out there. We slaughtered our own goats, slaughtered our own chickens. I took one shower in 7 months. Like, me and baby wipes have a good relationship. Yeah, so it was bad, you know. I can't grow any facial hair, so I was the only guy with no beard, and they're all laughing at me because I wanted a beard. I just had a little scruff. But it was tough. So we were up there north of Afghanistan. I mean, furthest north you can be on, right on the Pakistan border, kind of in the Swat Valley, the Hindu Kush Mountains. You know, very beautiful area. until they start shooting at you. And I get in there, and luck has it, I obviously go to the worst place that I wasn't aware, but it was soon to become the worst place in Afghanistan at the time. And we go in there, we get in, and I realize we're at the bottom of a valley, surrounded completely on all three sides. It was an absolute tactical nightmare. And, kind of a flash forward right now, there's actually a best-selling book by a guy named Jake Tapper called The Outpost that came out this past November. And it kind of explains how tactically disadvantaged we were. We were surrounded by all three sides, and it was actually just a point that they put there, and it actually came out to be we were only there really to deter anybody from coming through and bringing arms in and out of out of Pakistan. So we really had no set mission. We were just there fighting. And it was a fight every day we get harassed. I think I was in over 200 ticks, which is troops in contact, by the time I deployed. And it was about every other day we get attacked, maybe 2-3 times a day, just non-stop getting attacked. And it was awesome. I mean, we didn't take any casualties, but I loved it. Like, I was in the thick of it. Like, it was like, this is what I signed up for. You really get that adrenaline rush. And, I look back on it, and it was probably the dumbest way to think about it. But, like, at the same time, you feel you're actually doing something, I was shooting back at something. Like, I saw something shooting at me, and I'd shoot back. And, and you really don't realize the severity of it until conflict happens. And so we were going through that way about 5 months, just throwing bullets back and forth, lobbing mortars, nothing too crazy, just small arm fires, just really getting into it. And October 3rd, 2009 is the day that really changed my life. And, I mean, changed it in a way that I can't even express to you how it changed me. I was very content with what I had become. I was very happy with the military. I was very happy with being who it was that I was in the military, the rank that I gained, this and that. But I never really looked past it. I could see my platoon sergeants and officers that are doing 20 years and retiring, and I didn't know if I wanted that. And as an enlisted soldier, especially as an enlisted soldier, that seems like a fair option for us to just carry out 20 years and get out. And I have a lot of friends that joined with GEDs and came from bad backgrounds. In the enlisted community, especially the infantry enlisted community, is not the brightest of America's future, and I admit it because I was one. We are not the most sold on what our future wants to be in life coming in the enlisted infantry community. We are grunts, as they call us. We are grunts, and backgrounds are not the best, our education isn't the strongest, and I was very content with where I was at, just building up the ranks. And October 3rd, 2009, we were attacked by over 400 Taliban. There was 38 of us at one outpost at this specific time, and we were completely overrun and overtaken by 400 plus Taliban. It was an 18-hour firefight, which I was a part of. It's also the bloodiest battle in Afghanistan to date. There's been some other ones like Wanat and other ones, but the casualty and comparison rate from soldier to Taliban enemy is the bloodiest battle that it's been. And I was a part of it. And that is what opened my eyes to realizing I didn't want to be mediocre. I wasn't content with being who I was or what I was becoming. I wanted more in life. And seeing your friends killed next to you and having to throw 52 hand grenades and having to bend melt barrels on 240s and shooting every weapon that you possibly can imagine, killing at point blank with 9mm, I realized that my life was not content with being an infantry soldier, and I wanted more from it. I didn't know what it was, but I wanted more. And it was kind of an eye-opener realizing when you're fighting literally kill or be killed situation at point blank range and people coming in the wire at you, that you want more for yourself. And I thought I was going to die that day, and that's really what sold me, is I was convinced I was going to die because I had seen so many casualties already taken on the battlefield. I told myself I'm just going to kill as many of them before they kill me because it's inevitable. I had already lost 2 friends right by me. The total casualty, we took 8 KIA, 22 wounded, me being one of the 22. I took shrapnel in both my neck and legs. I had a bullet fragment go through my shoulder. I broke my hand, like my pinky and wrist area. I took a deep concussion bruise from a backfire of a mortar in my leg. And I was just hobbling around, bleeding out of everywhere I could imagine. I was wearing basketball shorts the entire fight and flip-flops for about the first 7 hours. Like, I mean, it was literally, I was completely unprepared. I woke up that morning like every other morning to walk down to go, use the one satellite cell phone to check my email, and of course I didn't bring my rifle with me. I just brought a pistol because I thought it was just an everyday. And next thing you know, you're fighting from bunker to bunker with a pistol till you get your rifle back, and I'll never make that mistake again. So, you know, it was a long day, and, you know, a lot of things happened, and I came out. You know, I came out on top as far as me having lungs still in my air, you know, or lungs still in my, or air still in my lungs, as I say. And it meant more for me to live than it did anything else, because I didn't really appreciate the life that I had. And until you realize what the ultimate sacrifice is that others give for you and for us, for our freedom, you don't appreciate what it is that you have. And for me, that's the biggest thing that I try to go into my everyday life with. It's never as bad as it can be. It's never as bad as it seems. You know, for me, it's been pretty bad. You know, I've had a lot of tragedy, adversity, and things that I've had to overcome, but it never really compares to what I went through that day and seeing my loved ones lost that close, that real. You know, I had to put my friends in body bags. I had to put them on a chopper. I had to see their mothers, their children when I came home, and I had to explain to them, I said, I'm sorry. I am so sorry that I couldn't do more for you. And that's a burden that I've had to live with, that I couldn't do more, that your son or your husband could come home in one piece. I'm sorry that I couldn't do more. And that was something that I really had to get over, because the struggle that we come home with as soldiers from such traumatic facings is how do we adapt? How do we come? Who do we be? Who do we evolve into? And for me, I wasn't re-upping. That was the last thing I was doing when I came from that battle, was signing my life for another 4 years. I just couldn't do it. And my sergeant major and colonel came to me, you know, like, Rodriquez, you're up, you know, we really could use your experience. You know, you have a lot of potential to train these younger soldiers to come and give them a hand and show them what it's like. And I said, all due respect, Sergeant Major, you've been in 20 years and I've been in 4, and we have the same amount of time in combat. If you think I'm realistic for another, it ain't happening. And he just looked down at me, he's like, that's a fair argument, son. Yes, sir, it is. And I said, I think I'm going to get out. I said, I feel like I've done my duty. And he said, I won't argue you there. He's like, you know, you've done well, you know, this and that. And I get out, and, you know, they list your awards as you get out, and I had a pending Silver Star, Bronze Star Medal of Valor, 2 Purple Hearts. And I didn't care about them. For me, I wanted to trade them in to see my friends again in a heartbeat. That's what it was. I felt that I didn't earn them. I felt that they were kind of just given to me. And that's just the mindset that I had, because I didn't feel I did enough. And when I got out and kind of adapting into civilian life, when I got out, that was the most down place I've ever been in my life, is when you leave that brotherhood, when you leave that fraternity, if you will, of camaraderie that you had in the military, and you go back into an environment of people that just have no idea what you've seen. And I left that blanket, almost just that blanket of comfort that I had being in the military and being able to relate to the guy next to me, to coming home and trying to explain to my sister why I'm sleeping with a gun under my pillow. You know, why I can't drive the same route to Walmart or come back because I'm in fear of being blown up. And I was on the verge of suicidal thoughts. I had friends that had killed themselves coming back home, and I knew the struggles that they were going to, and for me, it just didn't click. It didn't click that that was PTSD, that was traumatic brain injury, that what I had seen and what I had gone through was really impacting my life, and I was so much shrugging it off because it was easier for me to drink half a bottle of liquor to go to bed at night than anything else. And that's what I was adapting to. That's what I was becoming. And I'm sitting here on the verge of killing myself. I really contemplated for a good solid week. I thought that it was time for me to go. Like, I couldn't do anything about it. And I remember having like this altercation in my mind. I was like, if I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it right. Nobody's gonna be home. I'm gonna, you know, be at home by myself. Like, I want nothing to be this. I'm planning out how I'm gonna write my letter and this and that. And I look out the back window, and I'm sitting in the house that I grew up in. Nobody's home. You know, my father passed away in that house of a massive heart attack. And I look out the window, and the grass isn't cut. And I say, before I go, I'm going to cut the grass. So I went outside in this Virginia humidity, as so many of you may have known. I am just drenched. I cut the grass, and I get done, and I'm sitting on my back deck. I'm just contemplating everything, like making sure the decision's final and everything. And I kind of look up, and I see a stick sticking out of the gutter. I say, well, I might as well clean the gutters before I go too. So I pull the ladder out and I clean all the gutters. I mean, I trim up my entire yard. I have it pristine. I figure if I'm going to take myself out, I'm going to leave the yard looking good. So I don't know why. It's just a mindset that I had, and I cleaned the gutters, got everything taken out, you know, bagged the leaf blower, got everything going. And I'm sitting on my back deck, and I just remember like clenching my hands, and I'm like shaking. I just can't take it anymore. It was just such this aggression built up inside of me that I wasn't I wasn't who I was. Nobody knew who I was. I couldn't live with myself. I didn't know any area. I couldn't look at anybody the right way. I was scared to go in public. I was scared to do this. I just wasn't myself. I had lost so much of me to combat, to the people that I had killed and the people that I had seen killed. I just couldn't take the pressures anymore. And it starts torrential downpouring out of nowhere, like one of those rains where it's just like the sun's still out kind of, and you really don't know why it's raining, but it just starts like downpouring on you. And I just sat there on my back deck after cleaning this yard, and I just let it rain on me for a good like solid 30 minutes. Like no thunder, no lightning, and I'm just bawling my eyes out, just bawling. Crying, and I don't know why I'm crying. You know, I'm shivering, I'm shaking, I don't know what's going on in my life, and I'm just letting it rain. I don't know where the rain came from, I don't know who sent the rain, but somebody sent the rain and washed me clean. When that rain ended, it was like an altercation that you can't settle with, and something just came out of me, and I just realized that I had a purpose, that there was more to me than I thought there was. And I gave up everything that I could in a heartbeat to be who I wanted to be again. And I confronted my sister. I said, I need counseling, I need this, I need help, I need to do this, I need to do that. And they were on board. And it was just that point of asking somebody to lend out a hand when you try to do everything yourself in such a detrimental state. It's heart-wrenching. It really is, because I couldn't take it. I couldn't take the pressures what my life was giving me, and I needed a helping hand. And my family and my friends were there for me. And I told my friends, this is what I want to do. I always wanted to go back to school. I wanted to fulfill my education. I wanted to play football. And they said, well, focus on it. You know, find something that isn't distracting to you, that isn't going to take you back to the places, that isn't going to take you back to the nightmares, and focus on it. And it was a light switch clicked. I said, this is what I'm going to do. Nobody's going to tell me differently. Nobody's going to tell me that I can't do it. If you don't believe me, then get out of my life, because I'm not going to fill my life with negative energy anymore, because I've done that myself, and I almost killed myself doing it. Luckily, the yard needed fixing, or I wouldn't be here today. You know, so, and that's what it was. And I just had that mind switch within myself that it had to be all or nothing. And that's kind of what I try to preach to people in any kind of aspect of life that they want to do. You have to have a mindset and a mentality that it's all or nothing. Whatever you want to achieve, whatever you want to become, you have to give it all or it's nothing. For me, it was only unthinkable if I didn't think it. So every day I was thinking it. Every day I was believing it. I gave up drinking. I gave up anything that would harm my body in any way, and I just started working out. I just started working out every day. I just started working out. I started telling my friends, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to play, because I had to believe it. Every day I woke up that there was a difference that I was going to make in my life, and something down the future was going to be better for me than what I had. And I just kept going and going and going. I enrolled in school. I said to myself, you know, my grades weren't the best. I want to be the best student I can be. So I started making great grades, started getting in the best shape possible. And I had this wild idea to put together a recruitment video to send to college coaches. And that may have been the most laughter I've gotten from any friend, because everybody was like, you know, you are like 5 years removed from high school. You know, your high school highlights weren't 5-star. I was like, I don't care. I was like, I'm going to send it. And if you guys don't believe in me, then get out of my life. And they're like, whatever, man. So I, with the last penny that I had, I hired a friend production company to make a recruitment video. And we came and shot it. And I worked out, I ran my 40, you know, I kind of told my story, because he said, I won't do it unless you tell your story with it. He's like, these college coaches really need to know that you weren't just doing nothing for the last 4 years. He's like, you know, you're fairly successful and decorated in the military, and that needs to be known. Like, nobody just doesn't want to know that that's something that you should be proud of. And I wasn't proud of it, because I wasn't proud of my military career, just because of who I had become and the friends that I had lost. It was hard for me to take on that role when people call you a hero, you're appreciative of it. I'm not. My friends are heroes, you know? I'm not. And it was hard for me to deal with that and to grasp that concept that people show appreciation to. And it was difficult. And I told him, okay, I'll do it. You know, I'll sit down, we'll interview a little bit, this and that. And we make this video that I put on YouTube just because I needed a URL to send out to coaches. And overnight, the dang thing went viral, and I didn't even know what that meant. I woke up. The dumbest thing I've ever done in my life was, one, tell them I wanted to go infantry, and two, is put all my private contact information at the end of the video. I put my personal cell phone, email, and address because I thought it was only college coaches were going to see it. And then it went viral, and I woke up to 6,300 emails the next morning.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, luckily I sleep with my phone on silent because I had text messages and voicemails. And so for about a month, I had almost 500,000 views, and people were calling me to do interviews all over the country, and New York Times and Washington Post, and Fox and Friends, ABC. They wanted me on their morning show, and I was like, "What have I done? What has started?" But it was all a plan. It was all a plan. I didn't see it coming, and next thing I know, I'm getting recruited by coaches. And every interview I ever did, I told them full-heartedly, "I'm from Virginia. I want to go to Virginia Tech." And that's what it was. I wanted to be a Hokie. No point around it. You couldn't tell me anything else I wanted to do. So next thing I know, I'm getting a phone call from Frank Beamer. And I was like, oh man, this is real. I think I'm going to go to Virginia Tech. But the thing that happened, what a lot of people don't know is you have to become a qualifier out of high school, meaning your grades have to match a certain SAT point and whatnot. And when you come into college, you have to have qualified to be a college athlete. So for me, I didn't qualify. My grades weren't good enough out of high school. They weren't bad, but to the SAT scale, I needed a higher SAT score as it was, and since I was so far removed, I had to retake my SATs or do 2 years at a community college before I could transfer in. Well, Virginia Tech wasn't willing to put in a waiver for me to transfer in. There's a waiver you can put in called the 2-4 transfer waiver, where they look at your case and they say, okay, there's a reason why he didn't make the scale. We'll accept his thing. And it's not hard to do, but Virginia Tech wanted to do it. They wanted me to finish 2 years of school, and I was like, I'm getting old. I'm getting old here. Like I gotta make moves now. In Clemson, I get an email from Coach Sweeney that said, we'd love to talk to you about an opportunity to come here and play. I literally read it. I was in the middle of a class when I read it. Stood up out of my chair, walked outside, and called him back like within 10 seconds of receiving the email. And I said, he's like, hey, how's it going? I was like, good, He's like, I saw your video. He's like, I really like what you bring, what you're about, the perspective that you have. I think you could really be a good fit here. And I gave him all the baggage that came with me. I said, well, Coach, I'd love to come here, but there's a thing you got to do, and it's called a waiver. He's like, we'll get on it. And as soon as I heard those words, I knew it was something special. And the next thing I know, he's offering me to come down and take a visit. And I took my little truck down to Clemson, South Carolina. I had no idea where this place was at. Never heard of it before, but I get in my truck, and on my spring break, I'd come down here, knew nobody here, sleeping in my truck till I could get a hotel room for the first 2 days. Showed up at like the football facility like it was another world to me. Like I just walked into like a cathedral. I was looking around like, oh my goodness. And he's like, you got a place to stay? And I lied to him. I was like, yeah, I'm staying at the hotel down the road. I'd slept in my truck for the last 2 days because I couldn't afford one till the last 3 days of my trip. And he's like, yeah, we'd love to have you play here. And I met all the coaches and everything like that. And I left Clemson that week knowing I was coming back to Clemson to be a Tiger. And that was like one of the best feelings I knew. I didn't know how long it was going to take me. I didn't know what was going to be the situation with the waivers. But when I left here, I knew this was going to be my home. One way or another, I was going to be here playing for Clemson. And it was just a new mindset and mentality when I went back. I finished up the rest of the semester and transferred here this summer. And the rest is history. And I can't be more happier to be a part of this community and be a part of Clemson and be a part of South Carolina. And it's so much fun to play and just be able to build relationships again. Because what you lose when you get out of the military is that relationship. And even with modern technology and stuff, you still lose touch and bases with people every day. And for me, it's tough. I try to reflect and really go back and try to get in contact with my friends, but some of them have gone off the deep end just as I did and haven't come back and haven't found that being or that sense of what they really are in their life. And it hurts me because I knew I was in that corner. I knew that I was in that part of my life until I found something that was worth living again. And that's what I want people to do, is find what it is that it's worth living for them. And for me, it was just getting that opportunity to play football and that opportunity to go to school again. And that was just a gateway for what I have now. And that's an education that I can't wait to walk down, and get my diploma and public speak to kids and let them know where I came from. And just public speak to other people, anybody that's going through issues, and let them know that it's not as bad as it seems. Like I can put my life out there and open up my book and open up anything that I've gone through, and hopefully somebody else can better from it. And that's what it's all about for me. It's not about what I've done, the accolades that I've achieved in the military. It's about, at the end of the day, when I'm laying in the grave, did I benefit anybody down the road which I lived? Is anybody looking at themselves saying, that guy made a difference in my life? Did he impact me differently? The way that he talked, the way that he carried himself? And that's all I want to do. I just want to be able to represent myself. I want to be able to represent my institution. The college has been amazing to me. I love it. And I just want to carry myself in a way where people say, you know, he's doing something good with his life and he's benefiting others. And I can't be happier to talk to you guys, and I appreciate you guys having me here today. And thank you for taking the time and listening to me. And go Tigers, I got to say. Thank you all so much.
Daniel says he'll take a few questions.
Highest bidder per question.
There you go.
Daniel,
Yes, sir.
don't stop giving that message.
Yeah.
That's all I ask you to do. Please use what you're learning how to do. Don't stop giving that message.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
And number two, tell us about Coach Sweeney.
It's funny. He is. It's funny when you meet a Clemson fan, it's like, oh, thank you. How's Coach Sweeney? Every question you always hear from a Clemson fan is always directed to Coach Sweeney somewhere. The guy's genuine. He's awesome. It's such a privilege to play for a guy who has character and faith and believes in what he's doing and doing it the right way. I mean, we were talking back there. I was talking to some of you guys, and it's just he punishes those that need to be punished. It doesn't matter if you're the Taj Boyd of the team, the Sammy Watkins, or the lowest walk-on. There's a guideline. There's rules that you have to follow to be a part of his program, and he holds you accountable for them. And it's awesome to play for a coach that takes a detail so small and yet makes it such a positive point on his program because it's structure. And nobody's bigger than the program, not even himself. He calls out coaches, he calls out himself, and he'll tell you the program is bigger than all of us. And when you have that mentality from a head coach, I mean, the rest is showcasing what we've been doing the last 4 years on the field. Like, we're doing it the right way. You know, the guys are buying into the system, and we're really excited about changing the culture around here and getting the Clemson fans and Clemson football back onto where it's been.
How did it feel to score your first Clemson touchdown?
Oh man, it's funny because before this season when I would speak, it was, how did it feel to catch your first catch? And, I said, well, I figured that was probably the loudest 4-yard reception ovation anybody's ever gotten. And I reckon it's the loudest 2-yard touchdown anybody's gotten. No, it was incredible. You know, like, there was a few times in the season, you know, my first season I was all scout team. I was a scout team player, and all it is just get beat up by the defense. That's all it is. I was talking to somebody over here that said he was scout team the entire time back in the 50s, and he's like, all I gave to Clemson was blood, sweat, and tears, and I felt for you. I knew what it was like, and I had a great off season, really good camp. I got most improved player in camp, and I got moved up to varsity, so I was in the rotation, but there's a guy named Sammy Watkins ahead of me, so not too much you can do, but you know, it's a great learning experience. So I got moved up to varsity, so I knew I was going to be getting into more games, getting more reps this year. So we'd get up and, you know, I'd be able to go in and, you know, just give the guys a break. And so there's some times where I thought I was going to score, but it was always that target on Military Appreciation Day. Everybody kind of had the feeling that it was going to kind of be the day to do it. And so we were going for it, you know, and it was on 4th down I scored. So, you know, it felt awesome just getting the ball, and it was kind of a blur, really. I just grabbed it and just ran 2 yards. It was the fastest 2 yards I've ever run. And then it was celebration time. Yeah. And then I walked around campus like I was a little bigger the next day. Felt good.
What degree are you pursuing?
I'm doing a sports marketing degree with athletic leadership as a minor, so just kind of staying in the sports field, just pertain, you know, my experiences, maybe one day give back, you know, recreation programs or something like that, just be involved. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
Daniel, I used to teach high school, so I have to ask you this question. You struggled with your grades in high school. How are you doing now?
Okay, one of the most embarrassing times I've ever had in my life is having this mind that just was so far out there, and going back into community college to get this ball rolling to really start pursuing my dream as being a college athlete. Well, I hadn't even seen my transcripts from high school because I left high school so fast when my father passed away. You know, I graduated, I came, joined the military, and didn't think twice about my high school degree. And I went back to get my my transcripts to give to the community college to get enrolled, and I graduated high school with like a 2.1. And you want to talk about embarrassing? Tell college coaches to have faith in you and send them transcripts with your thing saying 2.0. And I'm saying, sir, listen, this was 5 years ago. This isn't me. But I'm proud to say I maintain about a 3.8 GPA now. So it's changed. Times have changed. So yeah, this past semester I had a 3.9 out of 4.0, and I think the lowest I've had since at Clemson was a 3.3. So my average is about a 3.5, 3.6 in there. So not bad.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
I made it full circle. I came back.
Anyone else?
This is not a question, this is a statement.
Yes, sir.
Clemson loves you, brother.
I love
I've been at the games and I've watched the fans, and I'm telling you, Clemson loves you. There's a bunch of old veterans here who love you. You're an inspiration, and you keep it up.
Thank you. Thanks, sir.
Just as a show of support, how many people in this room are Clemson graduates? Male and female, stand up so Daniel can see the team out
Hey,
here.
there you go.
Awesome. I'll soon be sanding this December with you guys. And it goes both ways. Like, it was hard to come at, and I understood what I was coming into when everything kind of went viral and publicity and everything with the news was going on for me. It's not what I set out for. And that was kind of like the mind and what I wanted to portray when I came here, that I wanted to be a student, I wanted to play football, I wanted to show that I was committed to the program, and I wasn't a charity case. That was something that burdened me, that people were going to look at me differently because this guy got attention on national news, and now it's a good PR rep for Clemson, which I'm not saying wasn't. It worked both ways, but I've always stressed that I love this university. I love being a part of it, and I'm loving that I'm representing it on the field, and everything that I do could not be done without Clemson, and I'm so proud to be a part of the university. And it's how you all have embraced me, in this community and in this tight-knit is so awesome. And I couldn't ask for anything more because I needed it. I needed that blanket, I needed that love from y'all, and you guys have given it to me tenfold, and I cannot be happier being a part of it all, and it's awesome. And I got one more season left in me, so as long as you guys will have me, I'll be around. So I'm not too much. Yes, sir.
One of Coach Sweeney's statements during the recruiting was that he wanted your maturity in the locker room.
Yes.
How has that played out?
Oh, we throw all the freshmen in the cold tub, so I guess. I knew my role coming in. We talked before, and Coach Sweeney's very similar. Just knowing him one-on-one and getting to know him better really puts perspective of why he is the way he is. He's a walk-on at Alabama. His mother, he'll tell you his mother lived in his dorm room with him in college. He was supporting his family. Like, the man worked to where he was at, and he realizes that. And when I came in, I knew I wasn't a five-star recruit that was supposed to change the program. There's a lot that I bring to the table more so than an athletic standpoint. And with that being said, it was kind of, I had to take that on, and that was fine with me. When you see guys down to the dumps complaining about this and that, I would just chime in. Oh yeah, I was shot at one time. Yeah. Or they're complaining about the food they ate. I was like, oh yeah, I had to slaughter chickens for 3 months at a time. I didn't live without electricity for a month. And you just kind of like look at you, and you're just like, yeah. You just kind of change the mood a little bit. You realize that you don't have to lead by statistics, but by example. And that's what it's all about for me, is just giving as much as I can on the field and off the field in any way that I can contribute. So